Sports Talk. Let's go.
Good evening, everybody. Hope you guys are doing all right. It's me, your boy Ryan Flowers, aka Clutch Sports Talk, and welcome to another live edition of NFL Matchups. We are full tilt this evening, man. Hope you guys can take some time and listen to what I got to say. But we are approaching week 16. But before we can go to the future, as usual, we must look at our past. And we're going to break down a couple things that I thought was intriguing from my perspective that took place in what we learned in week 15 around the National Football League. That includes the Buffalo Bills. I guess it was a surprising win against the Detroit Lions. We'll talk about that, as well as the Lions' outcome and output from that game. Also, I want to talk about the Philadelphia Eagles. They had a strong performance against the Pittsburgh Steelers at home. They got the win there, notched their 10th win in a row against a formidable squad. And it looks like that drama between A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts might be put to rest. And followed up, we're going to talk about the Las Vegas Raiders. I live in Las Vegas, so I feel like I have some type of weird connection to talk about them. I want to talk about another loss for them and what it looks like for them, because I believe right now, as it stands today, they are sitting at the top of the NFL draft, and maybe they're in the market for a quarterback. But we'll talk about that. Also, my Real or Not segment, followed up by my Week 16 preview and predictions. And then to close out the show, we have my fantasy impacts, but a little different this week. This week, we're going to talk about who I'm going to start and who I'm going to sit. So you don't want to miss out on that. So you guys are in the right place for all things NFL. So sit back and relax and enjoy the show. This is NFL Matchups Live with me, Ryan Flowers. Let's go.
We're going to be here all day, baby. I like this kind of party. I like this kind of party, baby.
Welcome in. Happy holidays to everyone out there listening. If you guys are watching for the first time, make sure, if you haven't already, subscribe to the Grid Network YouTube channel, as well as the Clutch Sports Talk Podcast YouTube channel, as well as we continue to grow each of those respective YouTube channels, man. And of course, I appreciate all the support out there too. So holidays are full tilt. We got 9 days until the big day approaches. And we got lots to talk about. We got 2 games on Saturday, if I'm not mistaken. So we'll talk about that later on. But first things first, let's talk about the Buffalo Bills. Now, a couple things that stood out to me in that particular win against the Detroit Lions is that, can their offense continue to score at a high clip? And to keep it short and simple, I think so. And the reason why is because they got Josh Allen. Josh Allen, if you really think about it, you go back to that loss against the Rams, indoor conditions, right? You go next week, you go to Detroit, indoor conditions. The guy is, not only is he a terror outside in the weather, he is a force to be reckoned within any type of dome there at be, whether it's LA, Detroit, wherever the case may be. Now, granted, their home stadium is outdoors, so that will play an effect, but he is built for it, right? I will say this though, their offense, it goes through him, and that's been the case since we've known Josh Allen, right? Amari Cooper was very underutilized, and that's being nice this past weekend. But Josh Allen is the guy that gets that team going, and he will take them as far as they need to go. The only problem to me is injuries. It's kind of bitten this team a little bit down the stretch here. I will say this: I will give props to the Buffalo Bills defense. They stepped up in a big way, kind of containing that rushing game for the Detroit Lions, which was what paid off to be very crucial. Because I think it helped them win that game this past Sunday. But this offense overall, it's once it's a no-name type of offense, but I will say though, you don't know who you're going to be getting from a week-to-week basis, right? Will Keon Coleman get back on track? Will Amari Cooper, since coming over via trade from the Browns, will he be a significant part of the trade or of the play calling? Khalil Shakur, right, who's kind of stepped up a little bit more, right? So, but it all starts under center with Josh Allen. And, if you think about Josh Allen's career path, wasn't recruited highly out of college or out of high school, ends up going to Wyoming. Not great coaching, kind of does a little something there to be able to manage his way into the NFL. And now look where he's at now. So basically, long story short, you don't know where your story is going to end, right? It just because you're not in the right spot where you think you should be, it doesn't matter because there is a greater plan bigger than you, and Josh Allen is a living testament of that. So, overall, this team is clicking on all cylinders. Obviously, they had the loss to the Rams a couple weeks ago. They've beaten the Chiefs at home. It's still not going to be a walk in the park. I'm not going to sit here and say that they are the best team in the National Football League, but they did play in a really big game. And they got a big-time performance from their big-time player, and that's Josh Allen. So shout out to them. Now, as far as the Lions are concerned, there are concerns, I will say. The defense, yet again, another injury, Carlton Davis. I believe he may miss some time down the stretch. David Montgomery out for the year. So that's a blow to their offense. You're starting to see now the Lions maybe starting to have a chink in the armor there. But I will say this, they did show some resolve. They did fight back to get back into that game after being down 14 points at one point to only lose by barely little. But if you're a Lions fan, there is some concern. As for any team, there's going to be a lot of concerns. But I think it's a good loss for them. Because they can kind of go back to the drawing board and reconfigure some things. You don't want to enter, and this may sound stupid to some of you, but just hear me out. You don't want to have a team just go on a winning streak towards the end of the year. Depends on your situation. But for a team like this, who's been basically steamrolling teams week in, week out, to have a loss like this, it kind of is like a reality check that maybe your shit doesn't stink, and it does, obviously, and the Bills kind of proved that. So, defensively, I think is going to be where they're going to have the most struggles. Offensively, yeah, you're going to miss David Montgomery, but they still got some other formidable weapons like Amon-Ra St. Brown. You got Williams, you got Sam Laporta, and Jahmyr Gibbs is not a bad back himself in his own regard. You still got one of the best offensive lines in National Football in the National Football League, excuse me. So, I think right there is good, but your defense, you suffer the injury of Aiden Hutchinson. He's maybe gone for the year. And if he does come back, if they do make a late run in the playoffs, how effective will he be? That secondary is being decimated as we speak. So that's going to be something that they're going to have to figure out and manage if they're going to make a run, because you got teams that are coming up, right? Between you got the Vikings, you got the Packers trying to make some noise, and then you got the Eagles out of Philadelphia that are looking to claim stake at the number 1 seed in the NFC. So although they do control their destiny as far as being the number 1 seed, because I believe, if I'm not mistaken, they have the tiebreaker for any other close team such as the Vikings or the Eagles. So it is what it is, but definitely they don't want to be stumbling into the playoffs. So they're going to have to find that recipe in order to make sure that they don't miss their chance to maybe play in the Super Bowl in New Orleans in the next couple months here or so. Okay. All right. Speaking of the Philadelphia Eagles, a really good win, 27-13 against the Pittsburgh Steelers. I guess we can say that there was really no beef between Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown. I think a lot of it was probably manufactured by the media. Of course, that's what the media does. They're teammates, right? Sometimes teammates don't get along. Maybe, A.J. Brown was feeling some type of way. It is what it is. But we did not see that the Sunday afternoon with the Philadelphia Eagles. A.J. Brown went off. I believe he had let me read my stats here. I know he had over 100 and 20-something yards. Jalen Hurts looked pretty decent right there. They even got Devontae Smith back in action there. So, the Eagles, man, say what you want. Literally, they were 2-2 at one point. A lot of people were calling for Nick Sirianni's head. He was arguing with fans. He's managed to kind of to keep everything in, man. And so what can I say? I mean, this team is built for success. The ownership there, what's the name of the GM there? Howie Roseman, the ownership, LaFleur, whatever his name is. I forgot his name off the top of my head, but they know how to pick them, right? And they're continuing to kind of be a mainstay in the NFC. They had a down year last year. Now, they started off fast last year and they kind of flamed out towards the end. But they're showing that they are a formidable team and they can go in and play Detroit. They can go in and play Pittsburgh, or play Pittsburgh if they happen to meet in the Super Bowl. They can go and play formidable teams and win these matchups, whether it's on the road or at home. They have what it takes. Saquon Barkley did not, he was hampered by injury this past week. It didn't matter. They had a guy come and step up and take some of the load off for him. So, this team can beat you in very multifaceted ways. Their defense is still improving. Some slight injuries, but hey, listen, it's week 16 and there's a lot of injuries in the National Football League. So, you can't really cry about that if you're a professional football team, because everyone's hurt at this point. But they are able to manage and maintain and triage the situation. So, do I like them today over Detroit? I think I kind of do. I think I kind of do. I think that Detroit's defense, although they're trying to keep it intact, but they've given up a lot of points. And they're giving up a lot of points, and they're not getting any better. There's no cavalry that's coming to save them at this point. So they're going to have to look from within, where I feel like the Eagles are they got past this past week with the whole drama between AJ Brown and Jalen Hurts. I still think that they are one of the best teams, if not the best team in the National Football League. So be on the lookout for them. That's what I learned about them. And then finally, the Raiders. Like I said at the top of the show, I feel like I have some type of obligation to talk about the Raiders just a little bit. I do live here in Las Vegas, so and I actually don't live too far from the practice facility. I don't know anybody in the Raiders organization, but funny enough, I do see a lot of these guys going around and getting their gas at the Costco or the 7-Eleven across the street from where my kids go to school at. So I've run into Max Crosby a couple of times. Really nice guy. Not a Raiders fan, but I'll say this, man. If I'm the Raiders right now at this point, you've been through 3 quarterbacks this year, O'Connell, Gardner Minshew, and then last night, Desmond Ridder. They got this guy that's been sitting there. What's his name? I believe his name is, I'm looking him up right now, Carter Bradley. At this point, if you guys are really trying to sell and just start this guy and get the number 1 overall pick in this upcoming draft. This team has been decimated by injuries, and last night, man, you can see that they really had no juice. I mean, they threw Desmond Ridder in there. I guess the motivation was, well, this was his former team. They gave up on him after spending a high draft pick on him. Whatever, it is what it is. It's a reason why the Falcons gave up on him. Right. It's a reason why he was sitting on the Arizona Cardinals practice squad before the Raiders came and got him. And there's no shot to Desmond Ridder. It could be difficult. He just came over to the Raiders, I believe, late October. He's been in there about a month and some change now. The play calling was pretty bad. Very vanilla. And I don't know if it's because they don't really trust the guy, or he just has an inability to play the game at a high level. Who knows, right? I believe they do have something in the little running back that they got, Sincere McCormick. I think that's the guy's name. But injuries after injuries after injuries. And then I feel like the coaching. A lot of people in Raider Nation really love the hiring. I'm on record of saying I thought that this was not a good hire. I felt like Jim Harbaugh was out there and you needed to make a play for him. They did it. He ends up going to another AFC rival in the Chargers, and you're seeing kind of what's going on with them. So, what do they do? I mean, what do you have to win? Why are you trying to win games at this point? If you're a player in the Raiders organization today, you're not thinking about anything else other than your own job security, whether it's with the Raiders or you are auditioning for the other 31 teams in the National Football League. That's what you're doing. And then from the organization leadership standpoint, you're basically going to be tanking. You should be tanking to get the number 1 overall pick and go get yourself a quarterback, because that was the biggest problem going into the season, that they didn't have a quarterback. They thought Gardner Minshew was going to be the answer if O'Connell wasn't going to step up. Neither one of those guys are great. Honestly, they're career backups, right? Then they go and get Desmond Ridder. They throw him in last night. That was horrendous. So they are playing with house money. Now, when you look at their schedule, they should honestly lose out the rest of the year. They've already shut down Max Crosby. He's getting surgery, I believe, on his ankle or something like that. So that just tells you right there where their mindset is, right? Now, there was some positives out of the game last night. There was some defensive lineman players that really kind of did their thing. So maybe, but again, it goes back to them auditioning per se. But the Raiders, honestly, in my opinion, they should have some cap space. But what the situation that they are in is, if you do fire Antonio Pierce, you're still paying Gruden, you're still paying McDaniels, and then you're going to have to pay AP, and then now you're going to have to pay another coach. So, it's not a good look. It's definitely not a good look for the Raiders and the Raider Nation. I know that's a very prideful organization, and their fan base is very prideful. But the consistent losing, I think Mark Davis needs to maybe step back a little bit, just be an owner. Don't really have no say and really love the operations. And I know the big news out here was, Tom Brady is a minority owner. Listen, let's just be real about this. There is no expectation of him being in the building. As a matter of fact, he can't even be in the building because of his full-time job now with Fox as being a commentator. So, how much can he influence in this organization, especially if he stays with Fox? And I don't foresee him leaving Fox because of the type of money that they're paying him. So, it's a nice little thing to put on the headlines. Tom Brady is part of the Raiders organization, but what is he going to do? I think the Raiders are in a tough spot. If it was me, you got to start fire selling a lot of these guys. Some of your best talent, you're going to have to rebuild. I mean, this is a rebuilding process, and you're going to have to blend some free agent signings. Maybe trade away a guy like Max Crosby. You're not winning with him, right? You're not going to get anything with him, right? And if you do respect him as a player, because I believe that a guy like Crosby has dedicated his career to this team because they gave him a shot, right? But because of the guy and the kind of a player he is, you want to look at that and maybe reward this guy by sending him somewhere where he can actually go win, because the Raiders are not going to win. They're just not. They're right there with the Cowboys. So what I learned from them is that they're in a tough spot. They are in a tough spot. And that's where it's at. I didn't have this on my show notes tonight, but one thing I learned too goes back to Thursday night with the 49ers and the Rams game, that Devondre Campbell, what is that his name? Devondre Campbell, I believe his name is, the guy that just quit. That's crazy. I mean, there's something else that happened with him. And the Niners not having the season that they thought they probably should be having. They got a lot of questions too going into this offseason, because I feel like their playoff chances are, I think mathematically they're still in it, but realistically they're cooked. They are definitely cooked. So, but the Campbell situation, what can I say? It could be more of a mental health type of thing. But from my understanding of what I've learned is that when you got guys like that in your locker room, man, you don't really need that. Now, I don't know what's going on through this young man's head. It's a reason why. It could be, Greenlaw came back and he's cutting into his minutes, and he was like, hell no, I've been the guy, so I'm not playing. And reports I've read is that John Lynch went down there and asked him, are you playing or not? You're not? Okay, get off the sideline. You're done here. Now, I don't know if they cut him or they suspended him, because I feel like if they cut him, they got to pay the guy. And I don't think they want to do that. So I think they might have suspended him the rest of the season. So he won't get paid. But I think pretty much the guy put a nail in his NFL career, because honestly, he's not going to be able to play anywhere. Hell, he might not even be able to play in Canada or the UFL, because they're going to question his character. Because there's one thing you don't do is quit on your team. And that's exactly what he did. Okay. All right. Moving right along, we got my real or not segment. We're going to start with the Green Bay Packers. Real or not, can the Packers run the table for a championship? And the short answer is no, they can't, right? And people say, oh, well, Ryan, they just beat the Seahawks. Oh, well, Ryan, they just beat this team. I get it. But they have, they're 0-4 against teams with 10 or more wins this season. That tells me all I need to know about them. They've had their slew of primetime games as far as like big opponents. You lost to the Lions. You lost to the Eagles with week 1. You lost to the Vikings. Now, some of these games are close. I'll give them that. But they haven't been able to pull it out. Now, they've put on a really nice display the last couple of weeks. But I something about them I just don't feel good about. So I'm going to say, nah, they cannot run the table and compete for a championship. I don't think it's in them. Okay. Moving on. Another team that a lot of people might be a little bit infatuated with, but slightly different situation, because they're fighting for their playoff. Like, I believe the Packers are going to make the playoffs, but this team is fighting for their playoff right. And the next real or not, can the Rams make the playoffs? And I'm going to say this is real. I believe they have a 52% chance of making the playoffs if they continue what they're doing. Now, it's still not going to be an easy road. They're riding a 3-game winning streak, which includes a really good win at home against Buffalo, and they just basically they took on the 49ers, and which was a very lackluster game, but still nonetheless got the job done. But winning against your conference foes is a really big start. Now, they got a big one this coming weekend, which we'll talk about later on in my previews and predictions. But yes, I still think that they can make a playoff run based off of just how they're playing. They're getting healthy, and Puka Nacua, it's like he's like being reborn as a football player and is tearing it up on the field. And they're just getting healthy. And I think that's what it boils. And their defense is making plays too. They're stepping up. That defensive line is getting after it. So I do like their chances to make the playoffs. If you had asked me about a month ago, did I think they would be in where they are? I would say no. I would have thought that the Cardinals did snap their losing streak, their 3-game losing streak, but the Rams have been picking up momentum the last month or so, and I don't see that kind of wavering them anytime soon. So, all right, final real or nah. Can the Falcons continue to win if Kirk Cousins is at the quarterback position? I am going to say, nah, I don't think they can, because I believe he's only thrown like 1 touchdown and 9 interceptions in the last 4 or 5 games. And that 1 touchdown came last night to Drake London. So he's gone over like a couple weeks, right? Interceptions, still a big problem for him. Now, I know Bijan Robinson has kind of stepped up a little bit. I don't think it's going to be enough. We all know when the playoffs start, it's all about your quarterback play. Now, I was a little excited. I maybe got a little bit overzealous. I thought when he came to Atlanta, I was like, oh, wow, like Kirk Cousins got a new offense, got some new weapons. He's still kind of the same guy, honestly, at the end of the day. You kind of expect certain things, certain type of performances from Kirk Cousins. He may give you a really good game of the year, and then next week he will stink it up. So there's no consistency with him. So I'm going to say, nah, I don't think they'll continue to win if they continue to stay with Kirk Cousins. Right now, his job is safe. I think at some point, Michael Penix Jr., maybe not this year, but definitely depending on how the season finishes, he may be in high consideration of being or at least competing for that starting job. But the problem is they pay this guy a lot of money. And when you pay guys like that a lot of money, you feel emboldened to keep them in the starting position. And so that's going to be a problem that the Atlanta Falcons are going to have to address. Maybe not this week, next week, or even next month, but in the offseason before they start up again in September, who is going to be the starting quarterback for them? Will it be Kirk Cousins or will it be Michael Penix Jr.? Okay. All right. We're moving right along here. Let's talk about some matchups going into this week 16. We got a nice little treat to start us off. Little AFC West foes here taking on the Denver Broncos and the LA Chargers. I'm going to say San Diego, but the LA Chargers. Broncos, really good win at home against the Indianapolis Colts. That defense came up big. Another pick 6 by Nick Bonito. Chargers kind of floundering there a little bit, right? Not looking so great their last outing. This is going to be a tough matchup. I will say that. I like the Chargers. I like their coaching, but I really feel like Denver will have this game in hand. I think they're going to take care of business. And I don't know if Justin Herbert is 100% healthy, like all the way. I think there's still some lingering effects to that ankle, I believe he had. But I like the Denver Broncos on the road to take on the LA Chargers and get the win in LA. All right. 2 Saturday games. We got 2 good dandies, I would say. You got the Houston Texans traveling to Kansas City. We don't know the status of Patrick Mahomes. He's kind of like day to day, minute by minute, hour by hour after suffering that high ankle sprain late in that Cleveland Browns game. Texans coming off of a really pretty solid win, clinching the AFC South. So they will be at a minimum the number 4 seed in the playoffs when the playoffs do start. So shout out to them. Congratulations for D'Amico Ryans and CJ Stroud, 2nd-year head coach, 2nd-year starting quarterback, and you've made the playoffs 2 years in a row. So, and you won the division. So shout out to them. Everything in my gut will tell me you got to go with the Texans. But if I were to listen to that, a lot of times I'd be wrong, especially dealing with the Kansas City Chiefs. I like the Chiefs to get this win. I think it's going to be one of those slow slug them out games. They're going to try to run the football. The defense is going to make a play here or there. CJ Stroud still not playing at the type of level or caliber he was playing last year. So I still think that the Chiefs have a chance, especially at home. It's a short week. I like the Chiefs in a close game. Maybe Harrison Butker will win the game for them in the end. So I like the Chiefs. All right, we got the battle of the AFC North, the black and blue division. Pittsburgh Steelers taking on the Baltimore Ravens. Last time these two teams met, Steelers got away with the victory. This time, the Ravens are going to be at home. Steelers coming off of a pretty lackluster performance against the Philadelphia Eagles, whereas the Baltimore Ravens kind of was like not trying to win the game, but they won the game. I know Lamar Jackson had 5 touchdowns, so he put his name right back into the MVP talks. I don't know, man. Obviously, these two teams know each other very, very well. Can I foresee the Steelers sweeping the Baltimore Ravens this year? I do. So therefore, I'm going to go with the Steelers, although I still think the Ravens are a good team. Something about the Steelers, they have their number So I'm going to go with the Steelers to win that game because I feel like they're going to try to bounce back and win that game after losing last week to Philadelphia. And that concludes Saturdays. You got Giants on the road taking on the Atlanta Falcons. Giants kind of like the Raiders. There's no point in trying to win these games. I mean, and that's kind of weird because, like, again, like the Raiders players too, you're auditioning for the rest of the league. So you can't really put crap tape out there if you expect to be playing somewhere else next fall. But Falcons, are the better team. Obviously, but this is the thing with the Falcons. You don't know how Kirk Cousins is going to play, but just simply put, they're the better team on paper, so they should win this game. I like the Falcons here. You got the Arizona Cardinals taking on the Carolina Panthers. Panthers coming off of a game that a lot of people had them winning, including myself. I didn't think that they would have lost to the Dallas Cowboys. Dallas Cowboys not playing really great football as it is, and you still lose to them. So I guess you haven't really taken that next step. I thought they were, but they haven't. Now there's still some questions about, Bryce Young. Is he going to continue to be in starter because the turnover bug is starting to hit him a little bit more again? But if I'm Dave Canales, you got to kind of keep kicking the tires on this thing until you sort it out. There's no reason to put Andy Dalton back in because he's not the future of the franchise. So unless Bryce Young gets severely hurt, you got to stay with him. But with that said, I like Arizona. They got to just stick to run. They got to get back to running the football. James Conner is a really good running back. Run the football, get Kyler Murray out in space on some play action, some bootlegs. You got Trey McBride, who was a beast at tight end. You should win this game. So I'm going to go with the Cardinals. All right, Detroit Lions taking on the Chicago Bears. Last time they met, it was the last time we saw Matt Eberflus as the Chicago Bears head coach. Bears coming off of another what the hell type of loss. This team has gotten worse since firing their head coach. And I'm not even going to put it on the interim coach, man. The guy, he's in over his head, honestly. This team is not constructed very well. They're missing something. Their quarterback, he looks lost every time he goes out there. And it's not all on him. Coaching does matter in this league, and you're seeing it here. So Detroit's going to be mad that they lost this game to the Bills. So I feel like they're going to go into into Chicago and beat the crap out of Chicago Bears. So I expect nothing less than the Lions to win by 6 points. They should be winning by more than 6 points. I would say that. So you can write that down. All right, Tennessee Titans and the Indianapolis Colts. Will Levis, I believe, is getting benched yet again, and he probably should be for good. He sucks. Indianapolis Colts, Anthony Richardson. This is probably one of the most disappointing teams, in my opinion, for me, because I really had a lot of high hopes for the Colts, and they just haven't really lived up to it. Although I do like their chances against the Tennessee at home. I'm going to go with them because they're at home. So I'm going to go with the Colts on this one. So I'm taking them. LA Rams traveling to New York to take on the Jets. Jets, pretty solid win last week against the Jacksonville Jaguars. We saw Devontae Adams finally play like a number one wide receiver, but nine receptions, 198 yards, if I'm not mistaken, and 2 touchdowns. And Aaron Rodgers is feeling good again. But I think the Rams will get the job done. I think the game will be a lot closer, but I like the Rams on the road to get the win. All right, we got the Philadelphia Eagles taking on the Washington Commanders. Commanders kind of got out of New Orleans very, very close. Like, I did not expect that game to be as close as it was. Commanders coming down off of their little high. Jaden Daniels really didn't play that well in the last couple of weeks, I will say. Eagles really playing really, really well, and they kind of owned them the last time they played. So I'm going to go with Philadelphia to sweep the Washington Commanders and basically just lock up the NFC East. So I'm going with the Eagles. All right, another AFC division battle here. We got the Cleveland Browns taking on Cincinnati Bengals. Bengals should win this game. Better quarterback. You got a better cast of weaponry. Got to go with the Bengals in this one. The Browns, they're kind of like living day by day. They're in a tough spot too. What do you do at the quarterback position? I guess you got to bring Deshaun Watson back. But that team's a mess. So I believe Nick Chubb is out, broken foot or something like that. So I like the Bengals there. All right, Minnesota taking on Seattle Seahawks. I picked Seattle to win the Packer game. They did not show up, and I believe Geno Smith is out. So this one's an easy one for me. And if he isn't out, he's hampered by that leg injury. So I'm going to go with the Minnesota Vikings to win that game on the road. All right, you got the New England Patriots taking on the Buffalo Bills. This could be a letdown game. I think they'll start slow, but I like the Buffalo Bills to handily take care of the New England Patriots. You got a rookie head coach, a rookie quarterback. If you can't beat them, then we have serious issues, and you probably shouldn't be considered a contender, but I like the Bills. All right. Let's see. We got the Jacksonville Jaguars coming to Las Vegas to take on the Raiders. Jags should win this game. Mac Jones is a better quarterback than any quarterback that the Raiders do have. I like them. They're going to test the Raiders secondary. Jack Jones got 8 alive last night against the Falcons, so I like their chances. I like the Jaguars in this game. All right, moving on. We got San Francisco 49ers taking on the overrated, overhyped Miami Dolphins, and that includes their head coach, Mike McDaniel. They haven't beaten anybody either, and in the last couple of years, right? They've gotten fat on beating really sorry teams. Now the 49ers are stumbling in, they're all over the place. Mike McDaniels is a former coach for Kyle Shanahan, so Kyle Shanahan is going to know everything that McDaniels is going to have under his sleeve for the most part, because he is basically the guy that put him in this position to be the head coach there. So Miami, I don't know what's going. Jalen Waddle I don't know what happened with him this week. I know the season's been tough on the wide receiving core there with Tua missing so much time. But I like, even though the 49ers are not great, I like them in this one. I still think that they are a better team, even though they are suffering with injuries themselves. And I think they're just better coached at this point. So I like the 49ers. All right, Sunday Night Football, Tampa Bay Buccaneers head to Dallas to take on the Cowboys. Cooper Rush playing really nice last couple games. Even in that loss to Cincinnati, he made some really good throws. CeeDee Lamb is playing really well, is good too. Rico Dowdle has emerged as the starting back in for the Dallas Cowboys there. Zeke Elliott, who was he? Honestly. But Tampa Bay, they are riding high right now. They went into LA. They beat the Chargers. They're sitting on top of the NFC South despite losing both matchups to the Falcons. I like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in this game, though. I think that they're the better team, and they have a lot more on the line and more at stake than the Cowboys do, so I like them. And then to close out the week, we have probably this game I don't even know, should have been flexed out, honestly, but it's going to happen. You got the New Orleans Saints traveling to Green Bay. It's going to be cold. Saints are an indoor team. I believe they're going to go with Spencer Rattler, rookie quarterback. Again, doesn't bode well for him. The type of environment, type of conditions, and the Packers still have a lot to play for. I like the Packers in that matchup as well. So there you have it. Those are my previews and predictions going into Week 16 at the National Football League. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section there. All right, before we get up out of here, we got my fantasy impacts, a little bit of start and sit. We'll start with the starting side quarterbacks. Cooper Rush, if you got him, start him. Playing really well. He's scored at least 11 fantasy points in the last 5 games, so that's really well. And he's also playing a Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense that has been struggling the last couple weeks, so he may be able to get some opportunities, some single coverage with CeeDee Lamb, so I like that for him. Russell Wilson taking on the Baltimore Ravens, another team that struggles with their secondary. I like his matchup with George Pickens. I think they can exploit that a little bit more, so I like Russell Wilson there to start. Running backs, if you want to start Tyler Algier, the New York Giants have struggled all season with opposing running backs. So this is a game that maybe if you could sneak maybe Tyler Algier as like a flex or a RB2, you may be able to get him, and he's gotten 15 plus carries in the last couple games, so that's making him a very solid fantasy option going into this week, especially during the playoffs. Another one, Jerome Ford for this Cleveland Browns. He's going to see a lot of time with Nick Chubb. I thought I read maybe he is still going to play. I'm reading my notes. I guess he is going to play, but still, he is suffering some type of left foot injury. I believe so, right? So he may be limited. So Jerome Ford may see a lot of increased production this weekend against Cincinnati. So I like him. As far as receivers are concerned, Malik Neighbors should get a heavy dose or a lot of targets against the Atlanta Falcons because he's honestly the only reliable threat that the Giants do have. So you might want to start him. Jacoby Myers for the Las Vegas Raiders. They got the Jacksonville Jaguars, and they struggled against wide receivers recently. They've been giving up at least 15 points in PPR leagues to opposing receivers, and Jacoby Myers is the top target getter for the Las Vegas Raiders, so you like him. I would start him there. Tight ends, I like Jake Okonkwo from the Tennessee Titans. He's been earning at least 10 targets the last couple of weeks, especially last week in week 15. He got 10 targets, so he should be on the verge of a breakout performance. I like his chances there against the Indianapolis Colts. And then Sam Laporta. Sam Laporta may get a lot more work this week too, as well, going into their tilt against the Chicago Bears, who've also struggled with opposing tight ends. So I like him too. Okay, now players you want to stay away from: Justin Herbert. Denver Broncos get after the quarterback, and they've had a bunch of pick sixes, a bunch of strip fumbles, and a bunch of interceptions. So I do not like their matchup. So I would probably stay away from him this week. CJ Stroud, I don't like his chances against the Kansas City Chiefs defense. Although this is not the same Kansas City Chiefs defense from last year, it's still pretty good. So I don't like his chances against them this week. Running backs, we want to stick with the Chiefs. I don't like Isaiah Pacheco. Although he has not reclaimed the top getter or the top performer in this running back room, the Texans do have one of the best run defenses in all of the National Football League, so that might stymie his production just a little bit, so I want to stay away from him. Javonte Williams, stay away from this guy. Stay away from any Denver Broncos running back. Between him, Audric Estime, Jaleel McLaughlin, I know McLaughlin's injured, but it's just been a rotating carousel of running backs for the Denver Broncos, and you don't know which guy is going to have the hot hand, because the way it seems to me is that Sean Payton is just going to go with who's hot, and you don't know, and that doesn't work well for fantasy, so stay away from any running back for the Denver Broncos. Wide receivers, Michael Pittman Jr., stay away from him. He's struggled to score double digits in PPR leagues the last couple of weeks, and he's facing a pretty potent Tennessee Titans secondary that doesn't allow a lot of points in fantasy, period, so you want to watch out for him. Marquez Valdez-Scantling, he's been productive recently, but this matchup this week against Green Bay is not going to be a good one. It's going to be cold. You're going to have a rookie quarterback Monday night. Don't like the conditions, so stay away from him. And as far as tight ends are concerned, Cole Kmet for the Chicago Bears. Listen, the Bears can't even get first downs, yet alone move the ball to score touchdowns. So I don't like anyone on the Bears at this point. And then finally, Hunter Henry. I don't like his matchup too. The Bills have a very tight. They don't break, but they've limited tight ends and points overall this year in fantasy football, so stay away from that. So there you have it. Those are my starts and sits for week 16 for fantasy. I know a lot of you guys are contending in playoffs, so hey, go back, watch the episode. You can get, if you just watched it, you can get some tips from me. I'll let you guys know. I'm giving you guys some things that I've been researching, so take it for whatever it's worth. There you have it. So, all right. There we go. That's all I've got. That's all the stuff I got to talk about tonight. So I appreciate you guys for stopping by. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to the Grid Network YouTube channel, as well as my Clutch Sports Talk Podcast YouTube channel as well. You can replay this episode right now, eventually when I'm done ending the stream here on YouTube. If you missed anything, or you want to go back and just kind of look back and see what I've learned or what I'm talking about, it's going to be available on YouTube right as I end this stream. So without further ado, that's all I got. I will see you guys this Sunday. I will be back this Sunday for NFL Sunday Wake Up, getting you guys ready for all of the games kicking off for Sunday and Monday. So we'll kind of redo this again. So without further ado, that's all I got. I see you guys Sunday. Enjoy the rest of your week. I'm your boy Ryan Flowers, aka Clutch Sports Talk, and this is NFL matchups. Like I always say, never settle till the work is done. We'll see you guys soon. Peace.